an American Navy destroyer, the John S. McCain, sailing in the waters off the Korean peninsula in 2013. The warship passed near contested territory in the South China Sea this week. U.S. Navy, via Agence France-Presse, Getty Images. Beijing. As the Trump administration pressed China to curb North Korea, Beijing issued its own warning over another festering dispute on Friday, saying that American naval operations in the South China Sea would only force it to deepen its military buildup there. The warning came after a United States Navy destroyer, the John S. McCain, on Thursday passed near Mischief Reef, which China claims as its territory. These freedom of navigation operations near contested islands and reefs across the South China Sea are meant to show that the United States does not accept that China or any other claimant can legally challenge an American naval presence in the area. But in separate statements, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of National Defense accused the United States of stirring regional conflict and suggested that such operations bolstered China's case for building military facilities across the sea to defend its claimed territory. Vietnam, the Philippines and other governments also claim islands and adjacent waters in the sea. We strongly urge the United States to immediately mend its ways and end illegal provocations in the name of so-called freedom of navigation, Senior Col. Wu Qian, a spokesman for the Chinese Ministry of Defense, said on its website on Friday. The American military provocation will only induce the Chinese military to further build up various defensive capacities. The loud, swift denunciations by the Chinese government stood in contrast to its muted public response to tensions over North Korea. Pyongyang vowed this week to fire missiles near Guam, an American territory, after President Trump warned of unprecedented fire and fury if it threatened the United States. Mr. Trump has pushed China to use its influence to compel North Korea to stop its missile tests and nuclear weapons development. On Thursday, he suggested that he might spare China trade penalties if it did more to curtail North Korea. If China helps us, I feel a lot differently toward trade, he said. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has not commented about the escalating crisis on its website, and its regular news briefings are in summer recess. Chinese leaders have also not commented publicly. But Beijing's reaction to the latest American naval operation has underscored that China has its own geopolitical sore points with the White House, including weapons sales to Taiwan and the repeated freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. American officials told Reuters that the John S. McCain passed within 12 nautical miles of Mischief Reef, which is part of the Spratly Islands. The reef is some 150 miles from Palawan, the nearest major Philippine island, and more than 650 miles southeast of Hainan, a Chinese island province that reaches into the South China Sea. A spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Geng Shuang, said in a statement on its website late Thursday that the passage by the John S. McCain violated Chinese and international law and did serious harm to Chinese sovereignty and security. The United States and its regional allies have accused Beijing of inflaming tensions in the South China Sea by expanding islands and reefs into military installations, refusing multilateral negotiations over overlapping territorial claims and spurning a ruling last year from an international tribunal that rejected the legality of China's claims to much of the sea. Mischief Reef is controlled by China but also claimed by the Philippines, Vietnam and Taiwan. China has used dredged sand to expand the original reef into an artificial island big enough to hold an airstrip. Under international law, countries can claim territorial sea up to 12 nautical miles from islands under their sovereignty. But low outcrops and reefs do not create such a right, nor do artificial islands built on them. The passage by the John S. McCain sent the implicit signal that the United States does not accept any territorial sea claims around Mischief Reef, regardless of who claims sovereignty. China has been ambiguous about its precise territorial claims around such artificial islands. But Mr. Geng said the United States was the culprit in threatening peace in the sea. Certain external forces are swimming against the current and continuing to stir up trouble under the pretext of freedom of navigation, Mr. Geng said. This clearly shows just who doesn't want to see stability maintained in the South China Sea, and who is the biggest factor in pushing the militarization of the South China Sea.